Welcome to McKnight Tonight. Here's Rob McKnight.
Hello, good evening and welcome to McKnight Tonight. I am Rob McKnight. It is Thursday the 19th of February 2026 and you know what that means? It's Tipsy Thursday, which is either a fun excuse for a quiet drink or a warning label for your breakfast television presenters, depending on how your week's going. And tonight, let's just say some people may wish they'd stuck to sparkling water. I've got the white wine. I will drink on air. All right, before we get into it, if you are watching on YouTube, please make sure you're subscribed at youtube.com/@McKnight Tonight. That's youtube.com/@McKnight Tonight and hit the bell so you never miss an episode. And do me a personal favour, jump into the comments. We've got a great community there because they would love to talk to you about tonight's topics, because I reckon tonight's topics, well, they might just divide opinion. And we love that here at McKnight Tonight. It's not an echo chamber. We like to challenge each other. Hopefully I challenge you on issues, and I know you challenge me. So let's find out what's coming up tonight on McKnight Tonight. A Western Sydney mum takes on Australia's eSafety Commissioner and wins. A takedown order over a post on X overturned on appeal, raising serious questions about power, censorship and taxpayer funds. Then, a Today Show reporter forced to apologise after a live cross from the Winter Olympics goes viral for all the wrong reasons. We go through every cross minute by minute, and I'll reveal what I would have done if I was producing live. In Rob's Rant, a stolen car, 6 camera fines and a bureaucratic nightmare that will make your blood boil. And later, some much-loved Aussie stars are staging a comeback. I have all the details as I'm joined by Craig Bennett and former Home and Away star Kristy Wright. All right, it's Thursday night. The drinks might be flowing. The opinions definitely are. Let's get into it. A mum in Western Sydney has won a battle against Australia's eSafety Commissioner after her department issued a takedown order over a video she posted on X. Now, to explain what's going on, here's part of a story shown today on Sky News Australia.
The 30-year-old from Western Sydney had posted a video to X in 2024 criticising a decision by a Melbourne primary school to host a queer club for students.
Primary school. Look at this. We've got the pronouns in the bio, we've got the rainbow lanyard, the rainbow... Oh, it's just so... Primary school.
It was a concern that I had, and a lot of parents have in this country, about indoctrination going on in Australian schools, in particular primary schools.
The activist, herself bisexual, was shocked when her post was censored on X, the site telling her it had received a takedown notice from the eSafety Commissioner. She appealed the takedown in the Administrative Appeals Tribunal and won. But Commissioner Julie Inman-Grant appealed that decision in the federal court, arguing the tribunal did not have jurisdiction over the dispute. Ms. Baumgarten's legal team estimates the government-appointed regulator spent more than $250,000 fighting for its right to censor her.
It would be hilarious if it wasn't for all the taxpayer dollars that was spent fighting this pointless litigation.
The federal court dismissed Ms. Inman-Grant's appeal on Wednesday, Chief Justice Deborah Mortimer noting the full court has decided that the tribunal did not make the legal errors alleged by the eSafety Commissioner.
eSafety started out as a reputable agency, protecting children online, something that we all want to do. Unfortunately, they have morphed into an ideologically driven powerhouse with a bottomless pit of taxpayer funds.
Now, before I comment on this, let's have a look at the full post that received that takedown order.
And in today's edition of Melbourne Doing Melbourne Things, we have a school in Montmorency, that has its own queer club, a primary school, for years 3 to 6. It was signed off by the school's dual principals and it's facilitated by this lady here, Trish Patsy Munro. This is her Facebook page. And this is her Instagram, which looks exactly like I thought it would. But she also has a teaching page. Primary school. Look at this. We've got the pronouns in the bio, we've got the rainbow lanyard, the rainbow... Oh, it's just so... Primary school. Let me make something real clear, Trishy. There is no place for an LGBT club in any school, let alone a primary school. Also, just have a go at a lanyard. But yeah, keep telling yourself it's only happening in America.
Now, you might not agree with what that lady said, but I can't see anything that is worthy of a takedown order from Australia's eSafety Commissioner. What is the reason here? Is it because she's expressing a view you don't like? This is dangerous. This is censorship. We are a democratic society and we have the right to air our views as long as it's not defamatory and it's not hate speech. None of that falls into this. This lady, this mum from Western Sydney, has a view about queer clubs in primary school. Again, you can disagree with her. It's absolutely fine. She has a right to say those things. She has a right to express her views, and all she did was use publicly available images, and that profile of that teacher is obviously public, so she hasn't outed anyone. In fact, if you remember that Sky News report, she's bisexual herself, but she obviously has a problem with her kids being part of these clubs, or any kids, her kids. This is a Melbourne school, and she's making a comment from Western Sydney. But that's okay. I sit here every night and I make comments about things. I'm really worried about Julie Grant. She really seems to be overstretching her powers here. Now, I don't agree with the under-16 ban, but it's had acclaim around the world. France is following suit. There's talk even now of America following suit. So we'll see what happens there. But you don't have the right to curtail free speech. And this may not be over because apparently the eSafety Commission is looking at its options. This is beyond a stretch. Political views are not something eSafety should be taking away. And that appears to be what has happened here. I'm really worried about this. I think we should all be worried about this. In England, in the UK, it has gotten to the stage where people are being arrested. Gary Lynham, who is the creator of the IT Crowd and Father Ted and the writer of those shows, he was actually arrested for hate speech because he said anti-trans things on Twitter or X. Now, is he not allowed to disagree with the idea of what's going on with trans? You don't have to agree with him to support his right to have his say. We are not a totalitarian society. We are a free, supposedly democratic society. It is beyond the pale. By the way, he was detained, but then charges were dropped. But it is bloody ridiculous to think that our governments are starting to take control of what we think and what we can post. It's getting scary.
Here comes McKnight Tonight.
All right, as usual, let me know your thoughts by going to youtube.com/@McKnight Love to hear what you think about that one and this one too. If you think you're having a bad week, spare a thought for Danika Mason from The Today Show. The Channel 9 sports reporter had to apologise to viewers this morning after appearing drunk the morning before in scenes that went viral and generated headlines around the country and the globe. This is the moment that caused all the fuss on Wednesday morning.
Look, we're going to go back to Danika, who reminds us all of those iguanas in Florida that get frozen and drop out of the trees. Morning, Danika.
Carl, I don't know how to respond to that one, but like literally, the price of coffee over here is actually fine. It's more the price of coffee in the US that we are going to have to get used to. I'm not sure about the iguanas. Where are we going with that one? But anyway, let's get into today's sport because there is plenty happening back home. We're going to start off with some actual Brisbane Broncos gearing from the actually their trip to the the UK rather, because Reece Walsh has stolen the show. He, of course, did that in the last year's Ashes series, crowning for 4 tries and claiming England's fans, but returned to the UK just 3 months following that UK club challenge. The Broncos fullback is expected for further torment for the crowd. The 41-year-old revealing that while she has the massive journey ahead for her, she's grateful for all the support going her way. It's absolutely incredible to see, honestly, to see the amount of support that she has is incredible, and the journey ahead, it is remarkable, but also true. The fact that we've got so many athletes who are willing to compete as well after her as well. She is just one of those athletes that you keep in their mind and you just look at them and go, what an inspiration.
No, I agree.
Yeah, she has a long road ahead of her.
I agree with you completely, Danika. Look, you know, the cold weather is a thing, right?
Can freeze
I remember
your
being in
face.
Washington, D.C. a few years ago. And, Ali, you would have been familiar with this. Like, you get out of a car over there and there's such a cold wind, you can't actually move your lips.
Yeah,
it's like,
it freezes.
I would struggle to say the word president.
I can't speak.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, Carl obviously knew what was going on and he tried to cover for her, but it didn't work. Everyone realised what was going on. And this morning, she issued this apology.
And guys, just before we do go, I just want to take a moment, if that's okay, just to apologise. I also wanted to say thank you for everyone who has reached out. I'm okay, probably just a little bit embarrassed. Look, I totally misjudged a situation. I shouldn't have had a drink, and especially in these conditions, it's cold, we've got altitude, and not having had dinner probably didn't help as well. But I want to take full responsibility. It's not the standard that I set for myself. So in saying that, I am genuinely really sorry. And I'm thanking everyone for those messages that I have received as well. But we have an amazing few days left here at the Winter Olympics as well. So hopefully I can turn our attention back to that. And I'll be back in about half an hour's time for more sport right here.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
We know how hard you work, Danika.
You're the best,
And we love
Danika.
you.
Don't worry about it. Let's move on. You're a legend. Thanks, Danika. Talk soon.
Good on her. She's taken responsibility and she's apologised. But yet people are still calling for her sacking. They're calling for the sacking of the producers in the control room. Everybody wants to cancel somebody. She made a mistake. And, you know, they were trying to peddle out at first. The PR people were trying to peddle out that it was cold. They were taking Carl's lines and peddling out she was cold. She was just slurring. She was obviously drunk in that previous cross, or tipsy at least. But the morning after, she stood up and she's copped it on the chin. This makes me admire her so much more. And Carl knows what it's like. He obviously had the morning after Logies, and I think that ultimately won him a gold Logie. But as I said, there had been criticism that she wasn't taken off air before this happened. So what I want to do is I want to go back and see how this all played out. This was Danika's first cross at 5:43 a.m. on Wednesday morning. This is the morning where she ended up by 8:10. We saw those scenes where she was obviously tipsy. So this is 5:43 that morning, Wednesday morning, Sydney time.
Boy, oh boy, how's the weather?
Oh, the weather has been very interesting today. It has absolutely caused mayhem throughout the Winter Olympics and Lavinia here. So earlier today, the aerials were scheduled to go ahead. We had our commentators sitting, waiting, ready in the commentary box, and that was cancelled. And then later on, the slopestyle, that was also cancelled.
You know what? I look at it in hindsight and I'm like, is there a slur there? But if you're in the control room at the time, you wouldn't have thought anything of it. And according to my calculations, so that was 7:43 p.m. in Italy at the Winter Olympics. That cross went for 5 minutes. There was nothing wrong with it. Yeah, she's a bit slow. I feel like there's a bit of a slur there, but certainly no red flags at this stage. So let's move to her next cross at 6:15 Sydney time. It's 8:15 p.m. in Italy.
Let's go outside now to Danika at the Winter Olympics.
Oh, I mean, some would call these beautiful conditions. To be broadcasting in, maybe not so beautiful, but look, it has been a really interesting day here in Lavinia because we had so many events actually postponed due to the weather. It wasn't just the snow that was falling because we've had about 10 centimetres overnight. There's been so much snow around town, but it was also the visibility and the wind, which was also causing mayhem.
Nothing. No one's going to be sitting there. No viewer at home is going to be thinking anything's wrong. Her next cross was at 6:35 a.m. Sydney time. That's 8:35 p.m. in Italy.
Guys, honestly, this is so tempting. I've been eyeing off a snow angel all day. Look at this.
Do it.
So this is the amount of snow that fell overnight. Have a look.
Yes.
You know what? I know. I'm going to get into Snow Angel. There's a circle in the middle there. Stick around because at the end of sport, that will be me.
There is a slight slur there, but I've got to tell you, in the control room, when you're line producing and putting the show to air, a sports segment is a set and forget, right? So there are certain things throughout the show that you know can just run along. She's going to do her thing. You might go, what, is she still going on? Rapping? You know, you might give a call like that, but you're looking at your rundown, you're looking at what's ahead. You may even be talking to some guests coming up in the next segment. So if they're going to go to their hot topics with some politicians or whatever, you might be doing that. So when you've got certain things like news updates and sports reports, you're keeping half an eye on it, but you're not sitting there intently watching exactly what's going on. So now let's move. This is the prime time hit of 7:10, where breakfast shows have their biggest viewership.
Looking at Riley's face.
I know,
and just
he's
how
so
much
sweet.
it meant to him, that big smile.
I tell you what, he's got a job ahead of him, given the conditions over there, Danika. It's like a snow globe.
Oh, honestly, I mean, Australians right now will be looking at this going, oh my goodness, like this is crazy snow. The Italians, they say this is an inconvenience. They do not even classify this as like even impact snow. They say, we had a driver this morning who said, I said to him, you know, obviously there's massive snow on the horizon. He said, no, more of an impact to our lifestyle. And I said, you know what? That's actually a good way to look at it. So a lot of the athletes are really like just getting ready for the next few days ahead. Obviously, we do have the area snow, which is always.
Sleep last night, Danika?
Honestly, why? Like, why do I even start? I know I need to stop before I even start my stories.
I could see that in your head. Well, I've started now. I've got to keep going.
I sometimes think maybe people will be interested. No,
we are. We love it.
They are literally the worst stories in the world.
People love
but
bad
it was
stories.
a wild day. This is... yeah, bad stories. That's what we refer to them. This is like a lay day for the surfers because no one knew really what to do today. But anyway, we'll get onto that in just a moment. But let's get into the day's sport because there is plenty happening around the world as well as here in Milano Cortina 2026 as well.
All right. There's a bit of a red flag here. Carl is obviously picking up on something. It was a laugh out loud moment. It was a laugh out loud moment. And I know that in the control room, their worst thing right now would have been, oh, it's going on a bit. Why is it still going? Because again, 7:10, you're dealing with all the guests. 7:10 to 7:30, there's a lot of guests coming up. So I wouldn't say red flag. I'd say an orange flag at this point, but certainly not enough to pull her off air. Her next cross was after the 7:30 news at around 7:37 a.m. So that's 9:37 p.m. in Italy.
Get you going. It's what Danika needs right now over there in Italia.
Get you going, Danika.
I would love a little bit of fire up right now. It is very chilly, about -10 degrees right now, but we are not complaining because we have actually had a bit of action here tonight. So obviously earlier in the day there was mayhem here in Livigno because so many events were actually cancelled due to the wild weather situation. So we got to about -10 degrees and it was just also the wind was coming through. So that was the reason why we had to postpone so many events here. But it was good news because
there's still not enough to pull her off air here. Carl earlier said it's the cold. And if you're in the control room and said, is she okay? I can tell you right now, someone in the control room would have said, yeah, Carl reckons she's cold and that's why her voice is doing that. And you would have gone, oh, okay. But let's just sit through to the end of that cross just after her sport report.
He is set to make his Gold Coast debut in Thursday's match simulation up against St Kilda. So we are waiting, fingers crossed as well, for our season opener in Las Vegas. very different conditions to what we're experiencing here in Lavinia. -10 at the moment. And look, you can start to see the amount of snow that has...
OK, Danika, thanks so much. Let's get it.
If this is Danika in Lavinia, imagine Danika in Vegas. I'm looking forward to it.
No, she's got hypothermia, the poor girl. She
I'm
can't even move her
Tim's
lips.
job. I know. I need to stop.
You're doing great, Danika. We're loving it. Time now for the weather.
Okay, it's getting pretty obvious. She's had a drink, maybe two. But is it enough to pull her off air yet? And I'd argue in that environment at that time, I'd say no. You know, again, it's not like calls were coming through to the control room saying, get her off air. You know, she's doing her job. She's maybe a little bit tipsy, but she's still doing the job. And that was her making fun of her telling bad stories that she did at 7:10. But that brings us back to where we started with the video that's gone viral around the world. Now that we've seen all the other crosses, I want to go back and see this final cross again so we can see how things escalate.
Look, we're going to go back to Danika, who reminds us all of those iguanas in Florida that get frozen and drop out of the trees. Morning, Danika.
Carl, I don't know how to respond to that one, but literally... The price of coffee over here is actually fine. It's more the price of coffee in the US that we are going to have to get used to. I'm not sure about the iguanas. Where are we going with that one? But anyway, let's get into the day's sport because there is plenty happening back home.
And that is where it's game over. And you'll notice she didn't do the 8:30 cross that she would usually do. Check the tape. It's no doubt to me that she was pulled off air and with good reason. But should she be sacked? Absolutely not. Should anyone in the control room be sacked? Absolutely not. You've got to remember you're in a live environment, lots of things happening. And yes, you are responsible for what goes to air, but it wasn't offensive. She didn't swear. Nine and Danika have taken responsibility. They've apologised. But at the end of the day, a lot of worse things have gone to air in breakfast television. This was harmless. It's embarrassing for her. It'll be something that's always there for her. When the cheap seats comes back, it'll take the piss out of it. But you know what? People know her name now. They say all publicity is good publicity. Maybe they're right. Have you checked out the latest range of McKnight Tonight merch? You could look sexy in a t-shirt or even one of these caps. Or you could have a Rob's Rant with me every day by getting your own mug. But maybe you're the kind of person who prefers a Backend quickie. Well, you can get them all and more at McKnightTonight.myshopify.com. That's McKnightTonight.myshopify.com. Get some merch, help us out, and you'll look good doing it. Yes, you've still got time to buy your merch. I'm not sure how long we'll keep the store open for because there's highs and lows. So get in now. Support the show. Yeah, there you go. McKnightTonight.myshopify.com. Thank you for your support. All right, let's have a rant. Now, I had a friend who had a pretty scary situation this past week. His house was invaded. He was asleep on the couch and people broke into his house, walked around and ultimately stole his car. Thankfully, he wasn't hurt. He wasn't aware of it until he woke up. These people have stolen his car and gone on a spree. And as you can imagine, they've sped through speed cameras, red light cameras, all that kind of stuff. So what has happened since? Well, yes, the police have come and he's been doing all that. But he's about to be issued with 6 fines, a mixture of speeding fines and red light cameras. And he will then have to go and do an affidavit saying his car was stolen. Even though he has reported the car stolen, the police have accepted that. They've seen the CCTV vision. They know the car was stolen, right? But now he is going to have to do an affidavit when these fines come out and reply to each one. And my question here is simple. If the police know that the car was stolen, why can't there be some level of communication between, this was in Sydney, between the police and the Roads and Traffic Authority or Roads and Marine Service there now or something in Sydney, whatever they are, and stop those fines from going through. Because all of those fines are being printed on paper, they're being put in an envelope, they're having to pay for postage. So just from a government expense, you've got issues there because he's not going to be charged for this because this was the criminals who stole his car. So it is literally just a waste of taxpayers' money. Not only that, the inconvenience and the triggering. Every time he's trying to get over this event, think how scary it would be knowing that you're asleep in your lounge room and just a few feet away, people have been walking around near you. That's a really scary thought. And every time, because you know they won't come together, but every time those fines come through, that's going to be another trigger for him. I really think government departments should be able to communicate more effectively. We wonder where our taxpayer money goes. It's crap like this. That's Rob's rant. All right, coming up, Craig Bennett will be here and former Home and Away actress Kristy Wright. They are part of a launch of a new agency that will bring back some of our most iconic performers from the stage and screen. So it's going to be fascinating to hear what that is all about. I'll also get to your feedback. I reckon we'll fit in a Backend quickie. But first, let's have a random live shot of the day.
It's the random live shot of the day. Where are you going today? You'll never know where you'll end up with the random live shot of the day.
Yes, indeed, it's time for our Tipsy Thursday random live shot of the day. Tonight, we head to the Italian Alps, to the beautiful village of Sapatara. The camera looks straight down the main street of the village. Classic alpine architecture, timber and stone homes, all sitting perfectly in the landscape. And dominating the background is Monte Sierra, rising 2,443 metres above sea level. That sheer vertical face you can see behind the town is Dolomite Rock, part of the Carnic Alps, and it is absolutely towering over the village basin. In winter, this view gives you a real-time look at snow coverage on the slopes. And in summer and autumn, if you're lucky, you'll see something called the Enrosadera, where the rock face turns a reddish glow at sunset. Fantastic. Hey, I think a few of you have seen this already, but before I get to feedback, let's take a look at some breaking news that is happening right now. The BBC and many other outlets are reporting that Andrew, or former Prince Andrew, has been arrested and is in custody on suspicion of misconduct in public office. Now, I did see this just before we started streaming tonight, and from memory, there were about 6 unmarked police cars that went to his property, which he's only lived in for about a couple of weeks. But the summary from the BBC says he has been arrested on suspicion of misconduct in public office. Police say King Charles's brother is in custody and officers are carrying out searches at addresses in Berkshire and Norfolk. Photos show cars arriving at the Sandringham estate in Norfolk early this morning, which is obviously earlier tonight for us. It comes after Thames Valley Police said they were assessing a complaint over the alleged sharing of confidential material by the former prince with the late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Andrew actually turned 66 today and has consistently and strenuously denied any wrongdoing. Isn't it interesting that the arrest is about the sharing of secrets and not any of the pedophilia allegations? So this is going to be an interesting one. Obviously, sharing state secrets is a very big issue. So we'll be watching this one. I think it will be making news big time tomorrow as more details come out overnight, Australian time. All right, let's get to your feedback coming through to McKnight Tonight. Jeanette says, good evening, everyone. It's Tipsy Thursday. Tonight, I have a whiskey. After this week, I definitely earned it. Fabulous, Jeanette. Oh, hang on. Sorry, Jazz. Okay, on the issue of the Sydney mum, the Western Sydney mum, taking on the E-Commissioner, Matthew says, this E-Karen is a nanny that nobody asked for. And Matthew also says, Billboard Chris got takedown from the eSafety Karen too. Jason 120AU says, good that the court overturned this decision. Clint Tice says, I feel as though the commissioner may have thought they were protecting children. No, that's not protecting children. That is having a go at free speech, I've got to say. Beck says, Rob, I'm sorry if you wouldn't say it to your best mate walking down the street. You shouldn't say it online and you should have the same repercussion. No. I think this woman would say it to someone walking down the street. But my issue here is, Beck, people can say terrible things online. That doesn't mean that the government can censor them. They have to stay within the law, of course. And if they're harassing somebody, absolutely. But this was one video about that subject that the eSafety Commissioner didn't agree with, and we've seen the results of that. Okay, on the issue of the drunk reporter, Travis says the reporter should have been pulled off air, in my opinion. Well, we were going through at what point would you have pulled her off air, and it's my belief that she was pulled off air. Matt says, though, she had a job to do and should be let go. Matthew says, I have no issue with her, who has never done anything wrong at work. Jason says, at least she apologised. She should not be fired. But Clint again says, how much notice was she given before she had to do the show? A day, a week, months? She knew she had a job to do. Yeah, I know, Clint. But what I'm gathering is that she was doing it near a bar. It was the lay day of the Olympics because everything was cancelled. She's there doing these crosses right as everyone's gathering for dinner and drinks and everything like that. And whether it's before she started doing her crosses or during it, you can see the Channel 9 crew and the commentators are probably there, and they said, Danika, come here, say good day. And she's gone, and they said, quick, have a drink. And, she's gotten caught up in that thing that while everyone else is having time off, she's working. And yes, it is that's her job. But geez. We've got this one from Clint again, who says we've had Ben Cousins presenting sport in WA, Matt Johns hosting his own NRL show, Eddie Maguire blaming everything but himself, and these people still have careers. Danika will be okay. Own You're Crazy is not happy I spent so long on this. He says, we get it. You produced live TV once? Blah, blah, blah. I'm all pissed by the amount of time being wasted on this. I produced live TV more than once. But you know what? I thought it would be interesting to have a breakdown of how this came. Obviously not. Dylan says, if I was the EP, I would have made the call on the 7:30 cross. Travis, though, disagrees with Own You're Crazy. I'd much rather this than the politics discussion. This is actually interesting from his perspective. And we've got this one from Dylan, who says, the apology was buried at the 5:30 a.m. cross when no one was watching. Jason's on my naughty list. You're all right, Jason. Appreciate your feedback, the good, the bad, the ugly. Just go to youtube.com/@McKnight Tonight. We will have more feedback for you. And I love tonight's Backend Quickie. I know you're going to stick around for that, Jason, because I know you love a Backend Quickie. All right, all that and plenty more. But first, let's get to our feature interview. You can show your support for the show by buying me a coffee. Just go to buymeacoffee.com/McKnight Tonight. Every bit helps keep this show from our garage going.
Here comes McKnight Tonight.
Well, we could soon be seeing some much-loved, iconic Aussie performers back on our screens, all thanks to the launch of a new agency. The Retro Agency has been created to help those actors, presenters and musicians return to the industry. And yeah, you might even be able to spot a picture of me in there, as I've joined up too. And if you've already heard of this new agency, well, that might be because it's making headlines everywhere, including in The Australian and feature articles in Women's Day. To tell us more, I'm joined by two talented artists who are both on the roster. Showbiz guru and friend of the stars and friend of the show, Craig Bennett, is here, and former Home and Away star, Kristy Wright. Both of you, welcome to McKnight Tonight.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Rob. And Rob, it's an absolute joy to be back on McKnight Tonight.
Well, it's good to have you here, Craigie. And you too, Kristy. But why is this new agency making a lot of noise, Craig?
I think, Rob, there is a huge space for something like the retro agency, not just simply because if you scan those little boxes, you might have seen my face smiling from one of those. Because, you know, a lot of people think that retro means old and tired, but actually it's not. The way I look at it, it's revisiting a classic. And I think about this, Rob. So many of my friends, showbiz friends, are those seasoned veteran performers. And I know many have kind of given up because it seems these days agents don't have either the energy or the appetite to kind of suss out work for them. You know, there's that thought that these days it's all about young, young, young. That's the demographic. That's the demographic that flies. You've got to have 3 million InstaSnap followers or whatever it is. You need to be an influencer. And so a lot of people just kind of put their feet up and think, oh, well, those glory days are behind me. But thanks to the retro agency, that is now not the case, because I know that Stephen and Maria, the gurus behind this, are actively sussing out work for all manner of people, including, Rob, you and me.
Yes,
and
Kristy as well. And Kristy, you've obviously had a lot of success over the years. We all remember you in Home and Away. We've got a little picture there. Look how young you are.
17 maybe there.
Why have you decided to join this agency?
Well, Stephen reached out to me, so it was really nice to be thought of, to be honest, after all of these years. And I would like to say that I definitely don't consider myself old and stale as yet. I'm still a spring chicken in my mid to late 40s, so still just an absolute baby.
Yes,
middle-aged what? But seriously, for a long time, it's always been on my mind that we seem to neglect and discard the icons of this industry on which this industry was built, the backs of which this industry was built. You know, some of the names that are on this roster, I grew up watching as a little girl. And it's really disheartening to see them kind of just forgotten about after all of the work and effort that they've put in over the years. And if you compare that to industries like the United States or Britain, Australia just does not seem to look after, you know, their stars the way that those industries do. It's really upsetting. And for me personally, I took time out to raise my son. I'm a solo parent, which does not lend itself to a freelance career as an actor. And after 20 years in the industry and a good solid 10 years out of the industry, it was a real struggle for me to get my foot back in the door. Casting agents don't want to see me. I can't get an audition for anything. And I think, you know, similar to what Craig was saying, whether they just don't have the energy or, you know, they're focusing on young people, whatever it is. It was just really nice to be thought of by Stephen, to see somebody, you know, in the same frame of mind about trying to get work for people that have been doing this their whole lives.
Well, that is just crazy. You have had a lot of success. We all know your name, and how dare you take time out for your family. Craig, you both mentioned Stephen Moriarty. We've also got Maria Grande. These two names are running the retro agency. They're not really known by the public, but they certainly are known within the industry, aren't they?
Well, yes, exactly, Rob. And I mean, look at some of the roster. Kristy was just inferring there. She grew up with a lot of these great names: Greg Evans, Tony Barber, Rowena Wallace, Ian Rawlings, Stephen Comey, Melissa Bell, Miss Helena from Romper Room. I mean, gosh, she put down that magic mirror and her doobie all the way back in 1987.
I always wanted her to call my name and she never did.
She never did, Kristy? You mustn't have been watching that day.
Sorry, Craig.
I know she did, Kristy. I know she did. You just missed it. But, you know, to me, since she joined the agency, her phone hasn't stopped ringing. I mean, she's been up for dog food commercials, feminine truck driver roles. And as I say, almost 40 years ago, she finished her run as the second last teacher on Romper Room. She's absolutely tickled pink. I mean, Rowena Wallace too, her phone has been ringing to the point where at first she thought she had tinnitus. She thought, what's that ringing noise? Her phone had not rung literally in years. And of course, then she went into that I think rather a sad situation where she was endlessly whining on in the magazines about being broke and all of that. That was because she was paid money and she needed to talk about something. But now legitimately there are work offers flowing her way. And she is somebody, my God, you forget Pat the Rat. I mean, that was a big part of her obvious career. But I mean, you go back to Barrier Reef and so many of those early shows, an absolute legend, an icon. And, you know, and you think about so many of these evergreen stars still brimming with vim and vigor and, dare I say it, that sometimes elusive T word. It's called talent. It's something we often forget about these days because we're so thrilled about Instagram followers and how many people on X you've got kind of salivating over your every last post.
It's certainly true. There's a lot in there. And Romper Room, my wife Amanda was on Romper Room. So, yeah, she got to live the dream.
I'm so jealous.
But Kristy, come on, you've had a lot of success over the years. I want to talk Star Wars for a moment.
Yeah.
You were in episode 3, Revenge of the Sith.
Correct.
And look, I know it wasn't the biggest role, and I know you're in the background of that photo. It's the only one I could find. But what was
Rob,
it like?
was a much bigger role. It was a much bigger role. Sorry, just to put that out there.
No. That's my point. It's the only photo I could find. But what was it like working on a movie of that scale?
Honestly, at the time, I really thought it was going to be my ticket. You know, I thought it was going to be the thing that was going to kind of really kickstart my career. I played the same role that Keira Knightley and Rose Byrne played in the original 2 movies, so the handmaiden role to Natalie Portman.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, my character just wasn't pertinent to the story, so I ended up mainly on the cutting room floor. I like to think it's story-based and not performance-based. That's what I tell myself. That it just wasn't that important, unfortunately. So it kind of ended up being a little bit more of a fizzle than a kickstart for me. But an extraordinary experience, nevertheless, to be on sets like that, to be able to work with someone like George Lucas, not to mention all of the other talent that was out in Australia shooting that at the time. But at the same time, it felt like a kind of a natural step from what I'd been doing. So I was so locked into my career and work at that stage that it was just kind of also another day at work, really, in the grand scheme of things. It just didn't quite pan out the way I'd hoped.
And you've been, well, since then, you've been doing the mum thing. You've been trying to get onto the hustle. How are you finding the industry at the moment?
As I said, quite difficult. I ultimately had to make a really conscious choice to actually set it aside. So no agent, no auditions, really put an end to it, purely because you know, sole parenting. I don't have another parent to leave my son with to be able to go interstate and do a job here or there. I don't have the capabilities to be working 12 to 14 hours days on set. So it just wasn't feasible for me. So I ended up actually opening a drama school in the local area that I live at. So I teach kids now. I had huge memories of being in drama class when I was little. It was where I found my people. So I thought, well, that's a nice kind of balance for me. At least I get to go to work and talk about what I love the most. I get to, you know, raise the next generation of kids, which is also really important to me. And I get to be home for my son, basically, which was the most important thing. And I also have another company called Act It Out, where my business partner and I have written drama curriculums that we sell to dance schools, because our goal is to really get drama back into the community. We're such a sports-focused and sports-oriented country, and I think the arts are really kind of, you know, being overlooked currently and have been now for quite a while. So we want to make sure that all of our littlest people are having the experience of drama come into their lives from a young age, and hopefully that will continue as they grow older. And also my son is now almost 13, so he doesn't really hang out with me much anymore. So I'm like, happy time to kind of get back on the books and get back out there and pop my head on the screen again and try to get a job. So that's where I am right now.
Makes perfect sense. Craig, you've been working on a variety of projects, including a remake of Beauty and the Beast. Tell me about Booty and the Beasts.
Well, yes, why not? We're talking all things retro, aren't we, tonight, Rob? And it's an interesting dynamic. There are you at this point in time as the beastly beast, and I'm one of the booties, if you can believe that. But, you know, it's interesting talking about these great old stars, because, you know, if I, and I'm talking from my point of view here, might tune into a show like I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, for me, what really intrigues and the people that really kind of pique my fancy and interest are, for instance, Barry Williams from the Brady Bunch, or Maureen McCormick, or, you know, the Australian greats like Kerry Ann Kenley or Denise Drysdale. I couldn't give a continental about people I've never heard of because they're on Instagram. Those things don't flop my mop or coconut my Lamington. I know there's a lot of people who disagree and absolutely adore those people. But, you know, for me, that's kind of where it is. I do...
you have a YouTube series
channel.
talking with these Hollywood legends.
Yes, and my point to that is it's called Celebrity Drop, where I chat with every week or every other week some fabulous icon from the movies or music or television, and a deep dive into their showbiz life. It is, so it's usually an hour. So it might be, you know, Erin Murphy, Tabitha from Bewitched. It might be the wonderful Denise Crosby. It could be, gosh, I mean, you name it, from the three surviving stars from Lost in Space, Bill Mooney or Angela Cartwright or Marta Kristen. I talk to all sorts of people. We've had well over 11 million views in the last 3 years. Because people hunt up these great stars from the past and are fascinated in their life and how it's played out, etc. So I'm saying there is a lot of interest in things retro and those great stars. And, you know, I mean, Kristy, with regard to you just harking back to your Star Wars moment, you know, it doesn't matter if you're found lingering on the cutting room floor. You're in damn good company, I got to say. You know, you got the tea towel, girl. Wear it with pride.
I'm in the books.
Got the tea.
I'm in the books, exactly.
You are. Wonderful. Good for you. You go.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Great.
Well, we are all part of the Retro Agency. Look for it on Facebook. Kristy and Craig, thank you so much for joining us on McKnight Tonight.
Thank you so much for letting us chat about it. Thanks, Rob. Ta.
McKnight Tonight. McKnight Tonight. McKnight Tonight. Here comes McKnight Tonight.
Bloody good people, don't you think? Yeah. Good to see Craigie again. And that was my first time meeting Kristy. She's lovely, isn't she? All right, let's get this show wrapped up with a bit of a back-end quickie.
It's time for a back-end quickie.
I feel like I should have a cigarette with that music. Would you believe I'm not a smoker? Now, tonight's back-end quickie. It's a quick one, but it just warms my heart. Sometimes in life, things can just go right. How good is that? Now, Jazzy's on the switcher at the moment. Can you roll that again, Jazzy? Everyone, you saw that she threw it up. She had no idea where it was going and she caught it. Roll it again, Jazz. Love it. So good. So good. All right, let's have a look at some feedback coming through to McKnight Tonight. We've got this one from Jeanette. This is regarding the car being stolen and getting some fines. Jeanette says this happened to one of my clients. They stole 2 cards. We'll go over the page and we'll see this one from Jason. He says, if the fines come from a camera and processed differently and it isn't as easy to hold the fines, even though you think it would be easy. Look, I get that, Jason, but I just do think they could do something better. Clint says it's a very sedate Rob's rant. Well, they can't all be steam coming out of my ears, despite the graphic. Dylan says, Rob bringing out his impersonation of Mario. Hang on. Rob bringing out his impersonation of Mario. Let's go. No, that was terrible. Absolutely terrible. Beck says, I know people have their opinions on Charles, but Charles has been one of the best things to happen for the royal family. Regarding our interview with Craig and Kristy. Craig, I've been wondering what you've been up to. It's good to see that you're actually helping your friends. That's awesome. Represent me. And You're Crazy says, we have an abundance of talent in this country. We are spoiled for choice. If we only got to see that talent again and again and again. I think you're getting to the point that we see the same talent on Australian TV all the time. It is one of my bugbears as well. If we're doing a new drama, it's got to have Asher Ketty in it, or, Deborah Mailman. There is like a list of about 10 Australian actors. One of them gets cast in every show. Every show. Poor Own You're Crazy. Miss Elena never said his name either. Well, Own You're Crazy is a bit of a weird one. We've got this one from Gareth. TV networks should be encouraged to stream more of classic shows so that kids who like TV legends like Kristy and Rowena are. So kids know who TV legends like Kristy and Rowena are. Craig would be a great on a podcast. I love his Studio 10 interviews. Well, Craig is doing a podcast. He does video chats on YouTube. What did he say it's called? Google Craig. You'll be able to find it. They're really, really good. He does what he does better, and he's turned that into a business, which is fantastic. We've got this one from Matt. A friend of mine worked with Vincent Price and was almost a Bond girl, and now she teaches art. Oh, that's nice. Dylan says, I was going to say drama is too expensive to make, but in thinking how much you spend on sports broadcast rights, not sure if it is anymore. Yeah, but the problem with that is that sport could be more expensive, but drama doesn't rate in this country. We've got this one from Clint. It doesn't coconut my Lamington. Classic Craig quote I have to use. Clint says, thank you, Rob, for making McKnight Tonight, and what a great community we have. What a great one to end on. Hey, thank you, everyone, for another great week. Thank you. There was some very lovely feedback to the ADHD special last night, so thank you for that. We are back on Monday with a big new week. So, on Monday, if you've watched this show, you will know how much I hate the idea of 30-kilometre speed zones. Well, on Monday, I'm getting the CEO of Roads Australia who want to reduce our speed limits. I'm going to have a little chat with him. We'll see what happens. All right, that's Monday. And, of course, Media McKnight on Tuesday. I will see you 9 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time. Have a great weekend and keep an eye out for the paid members of the YouTube page. I'll fit in a live stream over the weekend, all right? It's good night from McKnight. See you next week.
Fun, insightful interviews from a washed-up producer with nothing to lose. McKnight Tonight. It's good night.